Hello, everybody. Patrick Mitsung Nixigasan, Mako Sagegana no Chinia, Igua, Giepsis Nihio Sigasan, Nanaskaman Natomig Babisquian. I'm so happy to be here to talk with all you guys here today. We got a special guest coming on, along with a few friends of mine, and we're going to be talking to Chief Reginald Bellarose, and he's going to be, this is going to be a good little talk because not only do we get to talk about issues going on with our Indigenous people, but you guys can as well. So you'll be able to ask some questions in the chat box as well, and we're going to connect with all you guys here. So Chief is Bellarose is from the chief of the Muskowgan First Nation, and I believe he's running for the national chief of AFN. And so being that position, we're able to talk with him directly if he gets into that position. What kind of things he would be able to do to help support all the people here as well. But it's so good to be here with you guys, be live with you guys. I know it's been a while. Hey, Lorraine, little shield, good to have you on. But the code, the way we like to do things is make sure that you put in the chat box where you're watching in from. I know we get a lot of people from all over Indian country, from all over the world, sometimes New Zealand, Australia, and all that. So just like to say hi and welcome to everybody. I'm going to bring in my guests, and we're just going to get right to it because, National Indigenous Day is coming around the corner here, and a lot of us are working with our communities to put some spotlight and light on our issues and what we got going on. So without further ado, I'm going to bring out, you guys know him, his Nathan K. He's been with us for a lot of times coming online, and also my brother Eric Mentuck from Wayway Sikapo. We got people coming in from Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma, the UK as well. And guys, we're going to be bringing on Chief Reg Bellarose here right away, and we're going to start having an open chat, right? We're going to just talk and see what we got going on. So Reg, how's it going? How are you doing?
Great, I'm doing well, and really honored to be here this afternoon.
That's so good. So uh, I hear that you're a candidate and you're running for AFN national chief. One thing that I always like to start off with, I talk with my brother Eric and what he's doing, I talk with Nathan what he's doing, and I like to get their reason why. Everyone has a reason why they're doing things. Why do you think your reason is to run for this position as the AFN national chief, and in your point in your life? Why is it important to you, and what is your main reason for that?
Yeah, I just want to greet everybody wherever you are, whatever territory you're from, wherever you're dialing in from. It's a question that's being asked right now, and I guess how best I would answer that is I've committed my life to our people, working for our people, working with our people, the many challenges that we deal with on an ongoing basis, on a daily basis. I've been I started being chief when I was 35 years old, so I got elected in 2005, and right now I'm in year 17. So it's not an easy task. Leadership is not easy. However, when you work with culture, language, youth, the different ceremonies, there's always strength, and that's one of the biggest things that really impresses me around Indian country is if you're having problems, you're having challenges, just reach out to some people, and they're always willing to help you up, help keep you standing, help support any way you can. So that's really what I'm taking the band level experience from Muskowgan First Nation, bringing it forward to a national level, and trying to let the Chiefs of Canada know that as they're trying to build houses, trying to find jobs, trying to engage their youth, trying to support their youth, trying to support their people, I have been doing that as well, and giving the Chiefs a great option to consider for the next national chief.
Awesome, good stuff. You brought up something really cool and something that we really focus on. was community and youth. And I got Eric Mentak here, who works directly with a lot of youth around his area, and he's been facing a lot of challenges, especially dealing with the politics within his community. And so, I'm gonna open up the floor to him to ask some of those questions on, maybe what are your insights on that, and have you, if you get elected to be in that position, how could you help out with some of these issues that he's facing working with youth? So go ahead, Eric.
Hello, Mr. Reginald. First of all, thanks for taking your time out of your day to talk with us about these important issues. And I'm from Wew'suwet'en First Nation. That's in Treaty 4 in Manitoba. And just like you, I've dedicated a lot of my time and my extra time to the important issues. And youth is one of the important issues that I put a lot of my time into every day, right? So I do have 4 questions for you, and some of them are, there's two parts to each question. But in the reality of me, I just want to ask you a question off the top of my head, and with the pandemic going on and the pandemic kind of coming to an end, what's your thoughts on, or what message do you have to youth out there who are struggling with mental health issues and suicide, turning to drugs and alcohol? Because as we all know, we're a very oppressed people. We got a lot of trauma from residential school, but the pandemic added a whole lot of weight to these youth shoulders. So, what do you have to say to them?
Well, first of all, the youth are very important, and over my time in leadership, we've worked very hard in activities. I don't like to box in any of the youth and say you need to go to ball, or you need to go to hockey, or you need to go work with horses. So you got to try find a variety of interests, and as the youth come forward with what's important to them, the leadership need to fight for those resources, find those resources. And the privilege that I've had over the years is knowing young children from when they're 8, 9 years old to now seeing them graduate. That's been one of my greatest rewards. And then as they graduate, they're now into school. They're now continuing to work. So as we come out of the pandemic, it's summer season. We just got to get outdoors. We got to find something for our youth, whatever is interesting, gathering. In our area, the rodeo is a big thing in Muskowgon. We're not so much into powwow. We partner with powwow with Kawakatus and Daystar and Gordons, but in our area, the horse is a big part of the culture, and we've been working on setting up some horse programs. First of all, investing into our rodeo arena. So that'll be the first step to start getting the youth to come out and help support their community, help build up the rodeo grounds. And the second area we've been focusing on at the Tribal Council is to support the youth, the peer group, where that we can bring in youth. I will not totally understand the youth, but we want to bring in youth who will understand them. I can work with the youth, I can help fund the programs, but I don't want to go and try to tell them anything. I'd like to listen to them to tell me what they want to do, and then have our peer support. So in the peer support, you need gender balance, you need all of those different dynamics now that are there for the youth. And they've been telling us what they need. And sadly, those that have turned to drugs and alcohol, we cannot condemn them. We cannot criticize them. We just have to continue to work with them and encourage them that there is something better. So what I've done on this campaign is I brought Miss Manitowoc, Lenny Asapas on board. She's been helping me right from the start. We've got another youth that's been supportive. So on this AFN journey, I've brought forward youth to come on board and help me to demonstrate, not only just talk it, but to demonstrate that the youth need to be involved and participating.
Okay, thank you, Chief, our Chief Candidate. So I'm going to go into my questions I have. pre-written down. In a recent interview with Global News, you stated
you're on
we
mute.
need to find one agenda. I'm on mute. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I could hear him. I don't know if maybe your sound is off. Can you hear that?
Okay. What about now? Can
I
you
was
hear me
trying to
now?
read lips, but I couldn't.
good?
You might have to go onto your settings just for that to get that sound. And guys, if
My mic is on.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, Mentuck. So the sound seems to be good.
Yeah.
Guys, whoever's watching, we have a lot of viewers on right now. If you have any questions as well, I'm going to take note of that, and I could see all the things coming into the box here, the chat box, coming in from our YouTube and our Facebook, and I'm sure there'd be some questions for someone who would hold that national chief position, and so. We're going to make sure that your guys' voice is heard as well. So, Reg, could you hear us okay? We're just trying to
Reg,
see.
can you hear me? You good?
All the children need directing.
Hello.
As many of them will never have a clue. Okay, so maybe I'm just going to write in a private chat here and just say just his audio settings really quick here. And yeah, you know what? People are right here. Like Keith is on Yahoo yesterday, and he's reading some things, and he's curious. So, Keith, if you did have a question, keep that on there and write it in the chat box, and we'll have it ready to go. So, Reg, let us know if you can hear us. You might be having a little bit of technical difficulties on your end.
Reg, can you hear us? Oh, here on our side.
All right, Mentuck, maybe on a private chat, ask your question, and then we'll have him speak it because he also, you guys,
Okay,
National Indigenous Day is coming up.
Type it in now, okay?
Yeah, we'll
do
type
that.
it in. So we'll type in our question, and I'll let you guys know the question that Eric was asking, and then we'll have Reg kind of talk on it. But we'll see what we could have, because it was going perfectly, and then now all of a sudden, there we go. Here we go.
Okay, I just sent that message, and we'll see if he can answer that.
Okay.
Eric, can you hear me?
I think I can hear him typing.
Good question. Where does the youth fit in?
I can hear you typing.
They're very important. One of our priorities in Muskowgan, on one of our boards, we brought in a youth to come in to the business boards. I think what we need to do at the AFN is find a forum, some space for the youth to come and gather and share what their priorities are. We fully understand from the sadness of the youth suicide and the challenges with the online bullying. There's some priorities, but we also want to focus on education. What do the youth want to see in education? What do they want to see in sports? One of the areas that I want to focus on, and I definitely want to get the youth input, is the racism in sports in Canada. We've got a lot of incredible athletes, successful athletes, but they're cut from the team or they're not playing. They get benched. We've got other Ethan Bears and other Bridget Laquettes and other great athletes in different sports, but we need a study that says, why are our youth and our young people being left out of sports in Canada? we need an independent study on that, and definitely want youth to be a key part of that.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, can you hear me, Reg? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can. Yes.
Okay. Maybe I will kind of be the middleman here. But Eric also said, based on your answer that you said, there's other Eaton Bears out there. Our kids are not getting the same opportunities as non-Indigenous youth out there. But how would you hold your answer have some accountability to it? Do you have a team ready to disperse these issues, as you will be a very busy person in that position?
Yeah, it's we're working on establishing a day one plan. So if July 7th goes as we hope it will, come July 8th, we'll be able to implement our plan. And a key part of that plan is keeping track of what I'm committing to do. And by committing to do that, we're going to start working right on July 8th. We're going to start. My focus is a little different. I want to not focus so much on Ottawa. I want to focus on our own. So I want to shift the focus from AFN to the rights holders. And the key rights holders in this country right now are the First Nations youth. They have the biggest to lose, because if we don't get what we want, what we need, what the youth are looking for, then we're going to miss the boat. We don't want to miss the boat. So come July 8th, we're going to start meeting with all of the chiefs and the groups that we're saying we're making commitments to, and one of them will be the youth. We want to establish a gathering, whether it's virtual or in person, and say, you tell me. I'm here to listen. I'm not here to talk and tell the youth of First Nation country what they should do or how they should live. What I would do, though, is encourage the youth to set their goals high, to set their goals really reach for the stars, and believe that our youth can do whatever they want. Our youth do not have to be held down. Our youth can be whatever they want to be in this world. And I've totally believed that, and that's what I've dedicated my life to, is to transferring my vision to others to see that there is a lot of opportunity.
Awesome, awesome. Thinking about youth, youth of today, but also youth of the past. There's some big news that came out with residential schools, the children, our ancestors being found, and it's a big topic right now. Being kind of a national chief in that position, would you be able or would you hold Canada accountable for the acts of genocide recognized under United Nations in response to the children being found?
Yeah, so what we have for the residential schools, in recognition of what our people went through, a lot of them didn't get a chance to live life, and that's the genocide piece of the experience, very negative experience. So we've got a plan, and in that plan, it calls for, we will fight for and promote special designation for each of the sites where those schools were. There's about 180 sites. Some are not recognized. So we need to fight for those to be recognized. Call for a special designation, not a Canadian designation, but a very high designation that recognizes reconciliation and continues to work towards correcting the wrongs of the past. The second area is we want to focus on interim funding for the studies, the sonar work, but also the mental health component, because there's a lot of trauma. The third one is we want to fight for money so that the leadership and communities can go engage with their people and ask them, how do you want us as leaders to deal with this? You got to have meetings. You got to go out and see what the people want. And then from there, we'll be able to compile a strategy to fight for long-term funding. So now there's big impacts to the communities like Muskowgon. The school is still standing in Muskowgon. We've done work. We've identified graves. So we just have to keep keep doing that. Keep finding money, first of all. It would be easy to do, but we need to understand there's been no money identified to do this work. So we got to find those resources, first of all. Then the key part of the plan is to bring in the communities, as many of them who will come in and say, we all went through this experience. These schools may not be there, but the legacy is there and it's bad. The schools that do have the schools still standing, do you want to restore them? Do you want to keep them? How do you want to approach it? And each First Nation is going to be different. So as we do that type of work, the direct action plan is to commission a study that's mandated by the Chiefs of Canada, not the Government of Canada, but the Chiefs of Canada will bring in the right people to do that study. And then from that study, we'll be able to determine what the First Nations want to do. If it's a national inquiry, the difference is it's going to be mandated by the federal government, not mandated by us. And then we'll have to live with the results of what the federal government tells us what happened. So in our strategy is we want to handle, we want to write the report, we want to do all the work, and then we want to publish it. Then we want to hold the government of Canada accountable. If there's churches that need to be held accountable, let's hold the churches accountable.
You know, you brought up some good points about, you know, not having it in the hands of the government. And, you know, I want to just talk and touch on this because not a lot of us people my age and younger know about Bill C 15 that came out that could really affect us in our terms of our identity as being recognized as Indigenous people, our rights and our treaties. So what is your thoughts on the Bill C 15? I heard that it also went through its amendments, meaning it got passed or something like that. Can you just tell us as young folks about that and how it affects us as Indigenous people and in the future?
Yeah, so Bill C-15 is the UN declaration, and you know, through the parliamentary system, it's achieved all that it needs to do to come into force. At the Chiefs Assembly in December, the resolution was tabled. It did not go through the vote. There was more work that needed to be done not for Canada, but for the Chiefs to come to a concrete decision on the Bill C-15. But what I'll say is this, is that there are First Nations with rights in this country. We are the first peoples of this land. We have rights that will not go away. They will not be exterminated. They will not be deteriorated, which the government is trying. But through our way, we will continue to have those rights. Now, some of the chiefs believe that they don't want to go through the parliamentary system. We have in our area Treaty 4. For as long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the rivers flow. That is Treaty 4. So we do have all that we need within the Treaty 4 territory to continue on with our rights. Some of the chiefs are of the belief that they are willing to go through the parliamentary system and see what the outcome will be. So it's trying to find the balance. So what I've had one of our youth in Coacatus is bead this. I hope everyone can see it. But what this medallion is about the balance in Indian country. And that is the choice belongs to those at the First Nation level. Nobody can tell any First Nation what to do. So what we need to do is, I believe, focus on the rights holders, whatever territory, whatever region they're in, and in a respectful way have a dialogue and say, we understand you're for support of this, we understand you're against this. What I hope does not happen is that we don't fall into the federal government system of divide and conquer. So what I'm promoting is a united vision with a common agenda, because as First Nations, we need to stand united. We cannot continue on being in a different agenda or different mode. We need to stand together. We need to unite.
Thank you, Reg. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I've noticed you've mentioned the First Nations Land Management Act. I wanted to check in on your thoughts and how that affects treaties and the treaty relationship with the Crown. What impact do you feel like that would have on Indigenous communities and Indigenous people moving forward?
Yeah, so we've not done any work on the First Nation Land Management Act. Some of the First Nations have done a lot of work and they are in it. One of the areas that I believe is one of our common grounds to stand on in the United Chiefs of Canada is land. The second one is peoples, and the third is history. Those are the common histories. Those are the common threads that I'd like to bring to the Chiefs of Canada. Now with land, we used to be at 100% of this land was ours. Now we're at less than 1%. 1% of the land base. So in exchange for 99% of the land in the country, we now have these rights. Now, some of the land that was promised that in the different arrangements across the country were not honored. So some First Nations do not have the land they were promised. So we need to work on correcting that. Some of the nations who did get land were not surveyed the correct amount of acres. So through the comprehensive claims, those also need to be corrected. The third impact on lands is the surrender. So there was illegal surrenders of lands. And in those illegal surrenders, the money, the compensation did not come back to the First Nation. So that's all of that work right now. What I believe is that the lands are the most important priority that we have in this country. So when you look from a collective approach, a collective rights approach, then that would say, let's all agree to focus on land. What is the best arrangement for each First Nation? So with our experience, we chose not to go through any Indian Affairs land regime. We decided to focus on our own. So we did what's called a designation vote. So we can now have, and the people approved it. So now we can now get into 99-year leases. So that's one way to continue to advance your land. The one issue that some of the chiefs have, and Muskowgan has as well, is when you go through the different programs through Indian Affairs, your money goes to your trust account in Ottawa. So even though it is your money, it goes to the trust account. So that's one area we want to modernize. If the First Nations are making their own money, then we should be able to locally control that money, not have it go to Ottawa. So that's so land is the biggest focus. It's what do we do with the land should be in the control of each First Nation.
Thanks. Yeah, it's it's actually 0.02%. So we've pretty much given up 99.98% of the land, and now First Nations are left with 0.02%. So yeah, even less than a tenth of a percentage. So is there a process, or do you see a solution to having control over that trust, instead of Ottawa having control of that trust to access our own resources and put them to work for our people, really?
Yeah, so where I believe we need to start is there's an archaic definition of Indian monies. So whatever is defined as Indian money needs to go to Ottawa. See, that's really how this country of Canada was developed, on the trust accounts from the monies from First Nations, right? They still hold our money. So what we've been promoting is to modernize the definition of Indian money, and some are saying scrap it. So if we make the money, the First Nations generate their own source revenue, then the First Nations should be in control of the money. And really, that's what the big challenge is right now. There's something called FNOGMA, the First Nation Oil and Gas Act. There's only one First Nation in the country within FNOGMA, which is Kawakatus First Nation, our neighbor. So Kawakatus is one that can control their money. And then there are some bands, some nations who are not under the Indian Act, but predominantly most are. So it's coming down to, you can't rely on the government contributions. It's not enough. It's not going to meet the needs. So you have to generate your own money. What we don't want to do is create barriers to First Nations generating their own money.
Some good topics and issues to talk about. You know, when we signed treaties, in my understanding is we were to share the resources, and if that's the case, you know, to the depth of the plow. And Canada has made trillions off the resources of this land that we occupy, and so those treaties obviously have not been met. You know, how do we get to a point? Because Nate had a really good post the other day on Facebook talking about, you know, since we signed that Indian Act, you know, we put ourselves behind so far over 150 years to participate in the economy of Canada because we didn't get those same opportunities, especially with, you know, when they made way for the railway and they gave away our lands for agriculture. We didn't get to partake in that. So we're so far behind when it comes to catching up with, you know, the privileged people who use our lands for you know, to get ahead. And now I see it in our community, off reserve and on reserve. Our people are struggling. Our people are with their hands out, basically. You know, how do we move forward economically based on your economic plans for economic development with our people on and off reserve?
Yeah, so in terms of economic development, I believe that's for the First Nations. We're focusing on economic sovereignty, and economic sovereignty. The challenge is this: we have political sovereignty. There is no doubt about that. Our challenge is another government funds our political sovereignty. So they're not going to fund our political sovereignty to the fullest. So in order to achieve political sovereignty, you need to have economic sovereignty. That's the right balance. Again, it goes back to this medallion that I had done, is to demonstrate that you can't have one with the other. So by focusing on economic sovereignty, no matter where you are in this land, in the territories that you're in, you have the ability, not from treaty rights, we must remember, not from treaty rights, but from inherent rights. The inherent rights agenda says that we were nations before the settlers arrived. If we were not nations, we wouldn't have went into negotiation, the treaties, the arrangements with the crown. So we get this from inherent rights. And the inherent rights agenda needs to be, we can make a living in any way that we see fit within our territories, as long as we're working with the Creator and Mother Earth. See, that's that economic sovereignty. So now in Saskatchewan, some First Nations are saying we have economic sovereignty. We own the waterbed. Other First Nations, Atlantic Canada, it's moderate livelihood. We have the ability to feed our family. See, that's the biggest barrier to economic development, is that the dominant economy is keeping us out of participating in it. The only way to penetrate the dominant economy is by exercising and implementing our sovereignty. That our sovereignty will find a space for us to do our business, to make generate money and create jobs. That is our focus. You cannot have, and right now we because of there's three areas that each of the First Nations that I believe are dealing with, and that's poverty, addictions, and chronic health. So now, as we are going to do this work on behalf of our people, I go and get the mandate from Muskowgan people. We need your authority to do this. Now, Some of them are not in the right state. Some of them are ill. Some of them are angry. Some of them are hurt. Some of them are, they're critical. And you can't blame them because of our experience. But that's where we're asking those individuals to vote. And a lot of them have distrust for government. So they're saying, I will not trust chief and council. So in our vote, we went house to house. We explained to them that this is how we need to achieve economic sovereignty. And the outcome for our vote was 420 yes and 80 no. So that you need to go and see your people and talk to your people and let them know that those young children, the children that are still not here, need a better opportunity than we have right now. So that's why we're focusing on economic sovereignty. If you look at cannabis and hemp, we were left out of the Canada Hemp Act, the Canada Cannabis Act. We were left right out. It's 2020 when that happened. So we're asking them to make accommodations to include First Nations because some First Nations want to participate in those economies. They have the right to. So now as they do their on-reserve work and develop the dispensaries and their grow facilities and their processing, the provincial government is saying that those are illegal operations. Those are not illegal operations. But we need to make Canada understand that we do not work with the provincial governments. We can have some bands can have partnerships with them, but our relationship is with the Crown, the federal Crown.
Great. Yeah, I agree. Besides, the cannabis industry, what are some other industries that you see economic opportunities for First Nations and Indigenous communities to participate in for economic sovereignty?
Well, one of them is cows and plows. Treaty 4 has a lot of agricultural benefits into the Treaty 4 articles. We became such good farmers that they started to put barriers up. We started to sell our grain. We started to sell our livestock, and the money never came back to the people they were intended to because of the Indian agent. So a lot of our people became defeated, not because they couldn't be farmers or they couldn't be cattlemen. They became so good at it that the Indian agent discouraged them by keeping the money away from them and stealing the money in many cases. So there's agriculture, there's the green energy, there's wind, solar. Those are great opportunities for our communities to get into that market space. Again, it's the dominant the grid, the provincial grids that's keeping us out of that system. But we got to continue to lobby, continue to work, and just demonstrate that we can do it. One of the biggest areas that in Saskatchewan is gaming, the gaming market. We have 7 of the 9 casinos as First Nations through SIGA. One of the biggest, and it's going to be highlighted here in the coming days, is out of the 9 regions in the country, no First Nation proponent. Saskatchewan will be the 10th province, and SIGA will be the first Indigenous proponent in the country. So we have about 20% of the population in Saskatchewan, and we're going to own 100% of the market. So that's one of the areas, and the chiefs of the day created SIGA to create jobs, generate jobs for our young people. So now we got to continue that on and find the other business that can create jobs. So before pandemic, we had 1,800 jobs. We're slowly building that up. We reopened June 20th, and with single sports betting coming on, that if that becomes federal law, that will be put on top of our online platform. So I believe that there's agriculture, green energy, there's gaming that we can make improvements, and then we also got to start looking at the digital economy. Now, one of the barriers to the digital economy is 40% of the First Nations in the country are not connected properly. So if you're not connected properly, it limits your e-commerce ability, it limits your e-learning ability, and it limits your e-health ability. So in this First Nation economy that I'm promoting, we need to get our communities connected and start eliminating barriers that are in front of us.
Yes, I agree with connectivity. Hopefully, more communities look into Starlink and the opportunities that has to offer. It's internet through satellites. And I'm glad that you mentioned agriculture and green energy. Those are some of the fastest growing industries, as well as the digital technology industry. And seeing how we're part of the fastest growing population, what are some things that you see to encourage young people and youth to pursue these opportunities in these different industries? It's not like they see it, so I'm sure many of them probably don't even consider it. So what are some ways that you see communicating these growing industries for our people to participate in?
Well, first of all, I believe that we need to focus on ownership. We cannot focusing on the employment and job opportunities. We need to focus on equity, and by creating the right ownership structure, that First Nations can have even greater benefit. But in order to do that, I don't believe we have to approach everything through a banned business. I want to focus on entrepreneurship for the private businessman and private businesswoman. There's a lot with entrepreneurial uh, drive. They want to work for themselves. And what we need to do in this First Nation economy is make sure that we can figure out a way to find out a space for our private businesses, men and women. They just want to do it. They're driven. I've been getting calls from them all week. They want their voices heard, and they want not everything to be about a banned business. So it's trying to find that balance. What's banned? What's small business? What's entrepreneurship? And one of the barriers for our business men and women is it's the 30-day invoice cycle. So they invoice, they work for 30 days, they invoice, and then they might get paid on the 60th or 90th day. Where they have challenges is carrying the payroll in between that 30 days and 60 days. So that's where they need support. They've got to find ways to support with their payroll. Another area is that we need to find better supports for lending. Our small businesses and small businessmen and women, they are struggling to get out of the gate. They've got great ideas. They've got their business plan. They got everything in place. But there's that barrier of just the startup money.
You know what Nate kind of mentioned here, and we're both entrepreneurs as well, and we work a lot with community and education. You know, he mentioned that we owned, you know, what was it, less than half a percentage of land, and so with our growing population, we're having. You can't hear again. Oh man. So I'll just kind of say it out loud to everybody. But like a lot of since our population is growing so much, a lot of our Indigenous people are moving off reserve. And, you know, with that, you know, we have a lot of our Indigenous students going into non-Indigenous school programs, and they don't get you know, to learn some of these things in the system of schooling. Uh, is an assimilation process as well. So it's teaching our youth how to become white people and not how to become Indigenous people. And so they're not learning their languages in schools. They're not learning their cultures in schools and how to be an Indigenous person. And so that system is designed that way, basically to be a white person with a little bit of Indigenous knowledge sprinkled out throughout the system. So, you know, my question, I'm going to write it out to Reg, you know, what are we doing to focus on a lot of our schooling systems that do not support, you know, the true history of Indigenous people and the Indigenous narratives of those education within our schooling system. You know, it comes from a white man's view. And so you know, I'm gonna write that to him and see if he can get that. So Reg, you can't hear me, right? Nothing. All right, let me write that out really quickly. And also, you know, there's some good questions coming in here, guys, so keep writing them, and we're gonna be passing that along here as well. Let me know if you got that question, Reg. I know you're not hearing
Can't
us
hear
here.
you, sorry.
Yeah, I just wrote it in a private chat. So basically, I'm asking him, can you see in the private chat, Reg? Can you?
Hear me?
Reg,
Nate.
can you hear me? Reg? Hello? Can you hear me now? Nope. Yeah, I don't think you can hear me.
Yeah, we're so. I could hear you perfectly, Nate, and I could hear me. Like everyone else could hear us too in the chat box. All right. Let me.
Maybe just try when it was me and him. See if I could
Yeah.
question out to him. Reg, can you hear me? Nope, maybe not.
No. So everyone can hear us, Reg, but it's just maybe on your end. So let me write it out in the captions here, and we'll see if I can get it right.
I wonder if I should sign out and then sign back in.
Yeah, maybe try that. Yeah, we'll do that. Nice. Yeah, do that. And then, well, me and Nate will keep everyone we'll keep everyone going here anyway. Yeah. So we just removed Reg from here, and hopefully he could sign back in, guys. But you know, really good questions. You know, I was reading some books, and the Nez Perce, for example, and then they came and they were signing treaties with some of the Nez Perce people. But the big chiefs, the main chiefs who were within that tribe, did not go and talk to the white person. You know, it just happened to be one of their tribe members. And then so they tricked that tribe member into signing a document saying, hey, let us use your land to come look for gold. And the way that they approached that was one person represented the whole Nez Perce, and they were able basically got swindled out of their land, and that's where that big chase happened, where they took off. But they just thought it was absurd that within our tribes, one person could represent all of a whole community of indigenous people, right? Within our ways back then, just reading history and hearing stories, we had multiple leaders that made these decisions. And so, when we're talking about an AFN chief, that's something I'd like to talk about. How could like one person represent a whole? And if they are, how could they communicate whatever is being discussed, whatever is being signed on a dotted line, that it reaches all of our people that they're representing? And so we are able to weigh in on some of those decisions, right? So what are your thoughts about that, Nate?
Yeah, I think in the colonial mindset too, they went to a male figure, and a lot of decisions and a lot of the tribe was supported, and the grandmothers were the backbone of a tribe, and usually they were the ones to pass on the wisdom and give direction to the rest of the tribe. So
Your sound is kind of muffled, Nate.
oh, it is.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Not really, no.
No. I think it's I see the program here. I didn't. I didn't move anything. Is it still bad?
This is not our chief right now. I believe he's a candidate for AFN, so being a national chief of Canada. And so we wanted to just, come in and talk to him about certain things on how he would want to, get some of our issues across, and how could we as grassroots people, implement some of the things that or make sure we're protected, right, with our treaty rights and everything like that. So Nate, say a few words again, because they're
Is that better?
a little better.
A little better. I'll try.
Yeah, it's not muffled anymore, but it's very low for audio. So I just turned you up a bit. Oh, now I can't hear you at all. Oh, there was a little bit of sound there that just came out. No sound. Man, there's some big questions coming in. I don't know if you guys can read the chat box, but if anyone's listening on Reg's side, get them to sign in again. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Nate, I can't hear. Ooh, I can't hear you on your side, but there's some. Same here, sound. Same here. We can't hear Nate. Nate, everyone wants your voice and everyone wants to hear what you're saying, but they can't get it. Audio a bit low here in the Netherlands, friends. Can you guys hear me on our end? Let me know. We'll give him a few minutes if he wants to come back on, but we're landing in an hour here. Obviously, we couldn't get all these questions in, but we were working our best. But Nate and I, last time we talked to you guys, we were talking about getting land and creating some of that sustainable infrastructure and things like that. And we might have found someone that's local in our area that wants to work back with getting those resources back and working with indigenous people. So that was really, really cool, meeting we had recently on our end to move forward on that. And we're really, really working on feeding our community in our area on our side. So that food sovereignty, he was talking about food sovereignty and economic sovereignty, but just to figure out those steps. So how do you do it as a grassroots person? And so we're growing a bunch of food here. I know a lot of other places have hunting programs going on. So to not have to think about food and being hungry and things like that is an important issue to us at Powell Times, and working with youth as well. I know Eric Mentuck, he couldn't make it on here. His Wi-Fi had an issue, but he was talking about how millions of dollars from his community goes into the town school, the non-Indigenous run school. Oh, Nate, I can hear you now.
Could hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfectly.
Yeah. Some with these settings on this program.
Yeah, no worries. I don't think we might get Reg back, but what were your thoughts? Being in that position, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if anybody heard. Am I kind of loud now?
No, you're good. Now it's crystal clear. It's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah, I was talking about how one person might represent a community, like the colonial mindset. They would go to a male figure, and a lot of our communities were like led by the grandmother's decisions and their wisdom. They had the best interest of not just for their family, but the whole tribe and the young people in the tribe. So um, that's something the settlers didn't understand. So when it came to it, and they had somebody sign, like they had a male figure that they would say is the leader, but there was a group of leaders that were grandmothers, and they're the ones that directed the tribe and directed the community as a whole. So I think that's I would hope to see it come back to that, and a lot of our nations could use that kind of guidance. I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. To have that matriarchal, that voice there, then that was always present, right? That was always there. That iskue ikichita, they said.
Yeah.
Part of that, when they were writing the treaties, the non-Indigenous people would not sit with the woman, right? They just didn't have that mindset of having that, which is insane, right?
Yeah. and
um,
and that's, I was raised by my grandmother, so I got a lot of that. It's a power, that knowledge and that compassion. So yeah, I feel like that's what a lot of our youth and that's why I think we see like the high incarceration rates, the child welfare systems and those type of destructive systems that our people are still struggling with. So um, yeah.
mhm. And that's the thing, right? Because it's not our systems, and these systems are destroying us. The educational system is not supporting being Indigenous. I was watching a video by Russell Means the other day, and he said, one of the hardest things to do nowadays, and this is back in the day, he was saying this, is to be Indigenous. And it's not because of politics or everything that we face, but to be an Indigenous person, like how our ways of thinking, our culture, going to the sweat lodge every day, practicing our ceremony, speaking our language. A lot of just being Indigenous is hard nowadays, especially when you're living off reserve. There's not a lot of people that person could talk to get those teachings, that to get those ways of thought, to get those systems, to get those cultural teachings, their language, all that, right? It's hard, and it's getting harder as we move forward.
Yeah, I want to ask the audience, what do you guys think about like an Indigenous tax, both for Canada and the US? For every dollar earned, the Indigenous population might earn, like, even if it's a 0.5% or a 1%, that would be kind of in exchange for all the land that they've taken, and we could use those tax dollars. It would be like taxing them for the use and prosperity, for them prospering off our lands, and us being suppressed. And then we could use those dollars to fund our own journeys in healing, and our own journeys in education and culture and language. Those would be some of the incentives. Churches aren't taxed, and there's a church here in Southwest Calgary that I've learned earns $13 million a month, and they maybe do one good thing a year. But for any corporation or institution that makes $13 million a month, like, that's more than what you need. So, and that's just on their congregation giving 10% of their salary or their wage. So I think we have an opportunity to create these tough discussions, tough conversations, because of the recent events surrounding residential schools and the impact that the church has had on our people, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I don't know if Eric's on here, but I have him show up in the back office. Maybe not, but yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough times, but I really think with all the recent events that things are going to start popping up. Residential schools. We all knew about it. Our Indigenous people, but with the bodies being found, it's becoming more real for the rest of Canada, right? And so they're saying what we could do. Their allies are coming out, and we'll see what goes on.
Yeah.
and,
I
you
would
know
I would say they would go to all, not just First Nations. Sorry, I don't, Shondell, I don't mean to just say Indigenous people, but yes, that includes the Inuit and Métis people. They were also swindled and taken advantage of. So it would be to really support all nations that were taken advantage of, which includes the Métis and the Inuit people.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Rod's been chiming in a lot. The state of the reparations that Canada needs to deal with, and the trust that it has, right? There's a trust out there that was for all Indigenous, with the resources that were taken and everything, to have that equal, right? We're supposed to share equally. And so if there's trillions of dollars in there, and I'm sure if they divided it up all equally, honestly, I'm just saying, number wise, we should all be millionaires as Indigenous people. But we're
They also
struggling.
had that Natural Resources Transfer Act, which essentially it was a loophole for the federal government to get out of treaties, and to say, well, any resources, any natural resources that provide revenue are put in the hands of each province or territory. So they didn't have to include the treaty nations that were a part of that region or that territory. So NRTA, the Natural Resources Transfer Act, that was a loophole the government used to put those revenues in the hands of each province or territory, and those provinces and territories paid royalties to the federal government and left out the treaty nations of that area. So I know Tsuut'ina Nation is one nation that is challenging that in court. So I'd like to see, more exposure on that, and just to challenge the federal government and the provincial governments on including the treaty nations in those revenues that are generated from natural resources.
A lot to take in, man. Holy crap. Nate, man, it's been an hour. We usually start ending it around this time, but it's been good. I don't really get into politics, and I don't get into that stuff, but it's good for me to kind of hear what goes on that end, right? And a lot of that stuff in the background affects all of us, of what's going on. So guys, look up the NRTA, of 1930, Indian people were stuck in a past system during this time and were locked out of this table. You know, Nate, hey,
That's
you had a great post the other day about, you know, how we're, you know, 100 and something years behind of just participating, hey? And so, you know, we need to.
So yeah, we need to think strategically in ways to get back to that table and unite, work together to make our voices louder, more powerful. That was one of the talking points I wanted to bring up with Reg was the NRTA of 1930. I'm glad Rod is familiar with it. And it's an issue that should be brought back because we were in the past system at that time. We couldn't get to that table because of their colonial systems and how they strategically kept us away from these types of discussions and opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, with that, go smudge up and go scrape my TP poles. I got 2 more left, and we're gonna put a TP up today in our backyard, and something I'll be able to sleep in maybe tonight or tomorrow. But hopefully, all's good on your end, brother. Got some more news from Michelle that I'll have to talk to you about later on. But yeah, let's connect here in the next coming week. I think we meet up again Tuesday, right? Something like that. So
Yeah.
right on. Thanks guys for watching. Despite all the technical difficulties on that end, and we hope to get more of this stuff out so everyone knows what's going on with our, you know, with our being Indigenous in Canada, United States, how that affects us, and how we can move forward.
I think it's worth it too to bring more leaders on and have these types of discussions.
Mhm.
It feels like it was it's something that gave them a different platform.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we could actually, straight from the grassroots, here's what we're thinking. Here's what's up, right? uh, with that, guys, muistas, we'll see you guys again. And all right, brother.
Sagitin, wow, peace.
Mm.